Hello, hello, hello. You have reached another episode of Be Victorious. You all know who I am. We've been doing this for 11 episodes now. I am Dr. Victorious. And guess what? You all know I'm on all social media platforms. If I'm not Dr. Victorious, I'm Be Victorious. And that's what I want you to be. Make sure you subscribe to everything: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, LinkedIn. Yes, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on pretty much all platforms on social media. But the thing that I'm excited about is that I'm on all podcast platforms. Y'all also subscribe. Be Victorious with Dr. Tori Williams. I'm excited about this. Now, this guest that I have to introduce this young man. We actually have a lot in common. I've never met him before, but he is from Kansas City, and I'm excited about it. Greg Miller.
How are you?
Good. How are you? And look at that smile. Thank you for coming. Thank you for willing to share your story.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yes, it's going to be my pleasure. I'm going to dive in on some questions. I gave you the questions in advance, but before we do anything, I would love for you to introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Greg Miller out of Overland Park, Kansas. I'm a father of two, Uncle Greg the Mini, expecting my first blood nephew coming soon, actually next month in August. I am a person who loves people. I love people. I love drawing the best out of people. So any opportunity that I can get to converse with someone on a mentor level, leadership level, professional level, and give them something that God just given me for free, I'm all in. I'm all in. So I'm excited to be on here to answer your question, share my story, because at the end of the day, I feel like I am in a position to where I can save someone from themselves.
And I agree. I believe you can. And that's the reason why we're here, because we're on a journey to healing. I love your mentorship. I love that you have male mentors, just male mentoring, period. It's just been an amazing thing. I actually do it, and I do have males, but it's nothing like having that male mentorship. So I thank you for doing what you're doing. Okay, I do.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to dive into the questions.
Let's do it.
Please tell us what ACEs, short for Adverse Childhood Experiences. What are ACEs?
Adverse childhood experiences, and to sum it up, I can say a long sentence for you, but in sum it up, it's trauma. Something that a young person or someone between the ages of, let's say, 2 to 17 experienced that was detrimental to them and their mind, their heart, their body, from their experiences.
So
to me, yes, absolutely.
Good. When did you first find out about it?
Well, I known about trauma, but I didn't know about the acronym ACEs up until, some weeks ago. And then I started diving into it. And the more that I dove into it, it was more like aha moments. Light bulbs started surfacing all over the place. And I started noticing more and more within myself, in regards to what I experienced that's inside ACEs. You know what I mean? So.
And this is the reason why you're here. I'm on social media. I am actually in education, been in education for close to 20 years. But what's interesting is a lot of people really don't know about it. They really don't. They know about childhood trauma. And I hear so many people saying it, but they really don't know that ACEs are childhood trauma. It's really the acronym. In 1998, when Dr. Felitti and Dr. Anda came up with it, it was a big deal. And it's just been sitting stagnant on the CDC's website. I want to say since 2000. So we really haven't talked about it, but this is something that has been going on for generations. And it's something that needs to be addressed. So I want to thank you in advance for finding out about it, having that aha moment, and doing something about that aha moment. So while we're talking about an aha moment, would you mind sharing what that aha moment was when you realized ACEs is what you experienced?
I've known for years of things that I experienced, But as I dove deeper into it and started reading more about it, and they talked about, the type of abuse that children can experience that would have the ACEs, encounters that they would have, whether from parents or relatives or someone even on the outside, the long-term effects of ACEs. Um, those were more like aha moments. When people experience trauma, they experience things, they tend to um, develop a defense mechanism within themselves, and they don't realize that they can talk to someone else in a way that could be defensive to someone else. So as I dove into ACEs a little bit, I had conversations with my little brother, had conversations with my children, and I learned that I was actually delivering messages and conversations to them in a way that was threatening to them, but it was not threatening to me. And I did not realize that I was coming off that way to them, and that was hurtful. That was hurtful. The last thing they ever wanted to do was hurt their feelings and hurt their pride, or have them think of dad or big brother in any kind of way. But they did, because of how I was talking to them. And I learned that that's the characteristic of someone with ACEs. They drag their past along, and they sometimes dish it out on other people and don't even realize that they're dishing it out on them. And when I learned that I dished it out on the ones that I love the most, I couldn't wait for this, for this moment, because I think that this moment right here is a big, big, big step of healing for me.
It is. And I want to commend you, because you just gave a great example of exactly what a cycle breaker is. You found out about it, you asked questions, you saw that it had an impact on close family and friends, and you are doing something about it. So Greg, thank you for becoming a cycle breaker, because that's what we do. Same thing happened to me in that aha moment with my daughters. And it was like, remember when you used to whip me? And I'm like, it had an impact on you? Yeah. And it's like, in different families, it might be okay. It's not really okay, depending on who, when, where, or why. So that's the reason why the ACEs is set up the way that it is. It was initially 30 questions, but it's 10. And in those 10 questions, there's like 5 questions into one.
Yeah.
Did you take the ACEs test?
I did. If my memory serves me correctly, I think I scored like a 7 out of 10 or something like that, or 7.5 or something like that.
Yeah. Now, keep in mind that 7 is like not on a grading scale. Like I said, they have those questions that they put in, and it's like 4 questions into one, because they were trying to get those 30 questions impacted into one. So a 7 doesn't necessarily mean that, you're a C average. It just means out of those questions, 7 of those questions have more of an impact on you. Now, the ACEs, how it goes, there's 3 different categories. There's the sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, and then you have sexual, emotional, mental neglect, and then you have household dysfunction. Now, there have been some people out there that have made some adjustments and changing. We have extended ACEs, of course, and then we have positive ACEs, but we'll dive into that when we can. What category? Okay. If you don't mind discussing, what category did you fit in as far as your questions? Was it the category 1, the sexual abuse, the emotional neglect, or the household dysfunction?
I believe that I fit all 3.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Which one would you like to dive in?
I'm an open book. We can talk about the sexual abuse. Like I said, I feel like I experienced all 3. Probably the most detrimental to me is the sexual abuse.
Was it something that was inside the household or outside the household?
In regards to the sexual abuse, it was outside of the household.
Okay. Because see, for me, the reason why I asked that is because I did not score in category 1 or category 2. I'm a expert in household dysfunction, if that makes sense. And so with you in 3 different categories, that dives into the question of, with it being an outside person, were your parents told about this situation?
No, no, my parents were divorced, of course. And my mother was young. And I tell my mother this all the time. I do not fault her for anything. She had me when she was 17, pregnant when she was 16. She did not know how to be a mother. She did not come from a family that was, who showed love, from an emotional standpoint. No, so and I knew at a young age. At that time, I was 6 years old. I was the youngest one in the family. I was the smallest one in the family. And after watching, people mannerism and behaviors in the family, I knew that no one would believe me if I told them. And as I got older and situations happens with other people amongst the family and see how they protect each other, I knew nobody would believe me. And I'm 6 years old and 6 and 7 years old. As these things are happening to me, I developed the mindset at 6 and 7 years old that I was going to handle this person myself one day.
Mm.
There were several attempts with the sexual abuse, not successful, but several attempts. And I never wanted to be around this person. But my mother, although I never told her, she didn't quite get the hints. You know what I mean? I was throwing hints. I never wanted to go over to my aunt's house. I never wanted to go over to my grandparents' house. I was never happy about going over there.
Mm.
But she never got the hints.
Mm.
I just never thought that anyone would believe me. And when some things took place when I was 27 maybe, and the family was told about what took place with me, no one believed me.
Mm.
So how did I know as a 6-year-old that no one would believe me? And at 27, it proved it.
Mm. It did. And
yeah,
that's ACEs.
It took for me to almost murder this individual.
Mm.
It took for me to almost murder this person.
So what you're telling me is, when you were 6 and these things were happening, you had implanted in your mind you were going to go ahead and take care of this yourself.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
then
I did.
when you went to family or had the discussion with family said, nope, that's not happening.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I said, I didn't have this conversation when I was little because I never thought no one would believe me. This is about the same time where another relative was telling me I wouldn't go to amount to anything. I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't talented enough. I was just going to be up under my mother's wing my whole entire life. I'm not going to do nothing with myself. And I mean, this has happened at the same time from a different relative. So like I mentioned before, I was the youngest one in the family at the time. So I just felt in my heart that no one would believe me, and they were just going to protect this individual if I came out and said something. So I started having dreams. I started having dreams of me standing over his casket when I was young, but I never knew how he got there. And up until a certain day when I was 27, I learned how he was going to get there.
If you don't mind me asking, is this person still alive?
Yeah. Yeah.
What is your relationship with this person?
Non-existent. I keep my distance. If I see him, like at a family gathering or something, I keep my distance.
Okay.
And I realistically only go to these family gatherings to make my mother happy. That's it. Because I don't trust myself. I'm scared something will get triggered. And something that almost took place when I was 27, I'm scared it's going to resurface. Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear this, Craig.
Yeah, I mean, you got to excuse me because I get emotional about this, and sometimes my body starts shaking. It's like the adult me is still trying to protect that 6-year-old me.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because I felt like at 6 years old I wasn't protected.
Mm-hmm.
No one was there to protect me. So as I got older, that 6-year-old child um, that is still buried inside of me, the older version is protecting him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Still
So
protected.
as I begin, absolutely, and that caused me to be the protector with
Mm-hmm.
people,
Mm-hmm.
my close friends, my brothers, the younger ones in the family, my kids. That caused me to be the protector instantly, because one thing that I don't want is for other people to feel what I felt.
Exactly. Exactly. So you became a protector.
Absolutely.
And what I love is the words that you've used. You know your triggers. You do.
Yeah.
You know that. Um, and that's a wonderful thing. I had a young lady, honestly, that I talked to earlier today that is still trying to recover from a trigger that was identified 2 weeks ago. And so I get it. I understand. Like I said, I can't speak because I didn't have those, but my heart is extended to you because this is something that you have to deal with often. And that protective barrier is not going anywhere.
No.
It's not going to go anywhere. Question about mom. Is dad in the picture or no?
I mean, he's in the picture when I call him. Yeah, I learned. My dad was in the picture when I was younger. I seen him on the weekend. My dad was an alcoholic. He did drugs. My father had me in and out of gambling shack. That's the type of lifestyle that he lived. He taught me how to hustle people when I was younger. I experienced some things with my father inside these gambling shacks. I seen somebody get stabbed. I seen altercations break out as soon as we left. I heard somebody got murdered. I mean, my dad was there. Now, was he the best father? I would just say that I learned how not to be a father at a young age. Now, do I have any ill feelings towards my father? No, I do not. That was just a lifestyle that he was living. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I knew he was protective of me. So at that age, I had the decency to know if I would have told my father, I would have been without a father.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I knew that.
Absolutely.
But I felt like this was something that I had to do, and I did not think that these fists would bring enough pain to this individual to take care of that. So when, once again, I'm 27 and some things happened, I basically built up an insanity play in my head.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. And I get it. Because what we don't know, and I'm just going to keep it 100. It's not normal. It's not normal at all. And I think that's the reason why I'm so passionate about educating people. And your example was going to be the wake-up call, because this is a normalcy in our community. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. I hate it. It is. I hate it. But they're going to hear your story and say, dang, this happened. Similar things happened to me.
Yeah, and that's what I hope. That's what I hope. I hope somebody hears this, and it not only can it save someone from themselves, it could save their children. You know what I mean? There's been a lot of struggles, and like I said, my father was there, but once I got to high school, I learned that if I did not call my father, I wouldn't hear from them.
Mm.
So I quit calling them to see what would happen. You know, I found my peace with sports
Mm-hmm.
because I was able to release
Mm-hmm.
my anger and my tension um, in sports.
Mm-hmm.
And I also found my peace in my brotherhood that I established, like with Marvin and Kalen. You know, I found my peace with those guys because they gave me the sense of protection. They gave me the sense of love unconditionally. They gave me the family that I thought family should be.
Mm-hmm. And guess what? I promise you, our stories are so similar. I actually did my dissertation on ACEs and the correlation with extracurricular activity. I'm not gonna lie to you, I was a marching cobra. Willie Arthur Smith took us everywhere. So you had to think about it. We were everywhere. One minute we were in DC for President Clinton's inauguration. The next minute we were doing something else. That extracurricular activity saved me because I didn't want to be home. I didn't want to be in that environment. I just didn't. I just really didn't. But
Yeah,
then you have the going to college. I actually did the four, there's different types of trauma. The four F's of trauma are my best friend. I later on in life realized me flying or leaving Kansas City and not returning was the flight trauma. I never wanted to return. But in college, I met these wonderful people in this group of sisters that like actually took care of me. Like, we want you to do this. We want you to act like this. We want you to do these things. And I think that's why I'm so in depth with my organization that I'm a part of, because they saved my life. So I get it. You have to get
yeah,
those around you that support you and encompass your circle. So I commend you for that, because you had those people in place that knew that you needed that support system that you weren't receiving.
yeah,
And this is what has made you the man that you are today. You are a cycle breaker. That's the best example I can give you. Everything that you're telling me, it's disappointing to hear, but it's the recovery process. It's your healing journey. It's everything else that's going to make the impact. And you're making an impact because you're a mentor. And it's an amazing thing because you can tell within the passion that you speak that this is something that you really, really, really want to do. And so I want to commend you right now because I can see us collaborating on some things based off of your passion. ACEs are real, people. You have to
yes,
understand, I'm not just sitting here talking to this man for no reason. This example is in our families, it's in our communities, it's in everything. And see, this is the reason why I get so passionate about it, because I hate to hear it. I do. I don't think anybody should have to go through the things that you went through. You just pretty much explained every ACEs category without me going through it. You did. You talked about the
and
sexual. Yeah. I hate to
it just came out.
Yeah, and I hate to hear it, but this is a great example. You did hit on all three categories. You talked about your mom. You talked about being an alcoholic. That's health. That's household dysfunction. So you kind of live in household dysfunction. You talked about the sexual abuse. You talked about the emotional and mental neglect of your parents. Like, I get it and I understand. But tell me about your healing journey. You found out at 27. You found out some
So
things that you were doing. Tell me about your healing journey.
no, 27 is when I found that I was capable of murdering somebody.
Okay.
That's when I learned I was capable of doing that.
So let me
I
ask
grew
you
up.
this. What made you stop?
God.
Come on
Now,
now.
I tell people all the time. My daughter she was a year and a half, and my little brother was on my legs, was trying to stop me. Other relatives was trying to get the gun out of my hand,
Mm,
but all I seen was this individual. And when I got my gun, I put 7 bullets in the chamber. I mean, in the clip, and I said his name every time I put a bullet in there,
mm,
and I put one in the chamber just in case I missed once. And as everyone was trying to get this gun out of my hand, I heard one voice, and it was my daughter. She climbed out of her car seat, and halfway out the window, she yelled, "Daddy, no."
Mm.
That's what stopped me. That's the moment. That's what stopped me, and I haven't seen that gun since. I gave that gun to a friend of mine from college, and I ain't seen it since because I was okay with murder. I was okay with the repercussions. Like I said, I had an insanity plea built in my head already with hopes that I could get off, but I was okay because I felt like if I would have done that, all that pain that I've been dealing with since I was 6 years old would have went away.
And I believe
But
it.
my journey towards healing, I mean, I'm still not healed, obviously.
Yeah, it takes it's a journey.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. But what I've done over the years were I poured into youth. I began to take youth up under my wings. I began to coach. And it started with my little brother. My mom and my stepdad, you know, my little brother, I felt like an outcast in my own household. At times I didn't feel like I belonged. I felt like I wasn't wanted. Him and I, my stepfather, we didn't get along. We never got along. I remember when I was 9 years old, we got into an altercation. I grabbed the trophy. I was ready to bust him side of the head with it. But I felt like mom was protecting her husband. She was protecting her marriage. I did not really feel like she was to my defense. She could have been. I don't know. Maybe I didn't hear that part.
Right.
But as a kid, that's how I felt. You know what I mean? Now, like I said, she had me when she was 17. That's different from being 27. There's a lot of maturity between that time. You know what I mean? So, you know, she was raising my little brother a little differently than how I was raised, pretty much. But once again, do I fault her? No, she was a baby. She was a baby when she had me. You know what I mean? So now, one point in my childhood, in my life, did I fault mom? But you know, there was times where she would lash out on me, but I was smart. I knew I didn't do anything to her, but she was releasing her stress from work on me. I knew that. But so did I hold it against her? No. All I wanted was to be loved.
Absolutely.
That's it. All I wanted was to be protected. And I don't recall, I mean, her and I talked about this. I don't recall her ever telling me that she loved me until my daughter was born. Wow. I don't recall it at all. But so going back, my little brother, he was a pain in my, you know what? Yeah, and Marvin can contest to this. He was a pain. You know, my stepfather and I were getting many arguments and many fights with my little brother. They would buy snacks and things, and if I'm snackish, I want something to eat, and I'm being told that ain't for you, that's for Travis. You know, stuff like that. So it would cause arguments. It would cause fights, and it caused me not to want to be there. Marvin was the one that really told me about college. I didn't know anything about college.
Wow.
I had athletic opportunities being sent to the school. I didn't know anything about it. Marvin was the one that talked to me about college. So I started to apply to schools in Virginia where I was born, with the intent of leaving Kansas and never coming back.
Right.
With the intent of leaving the family and never coming back. But I didn't want to go that far away without a vehicle. So if I would have went to Virginia, I wouldn't have had a car. I wouldn't have had transportation. I wasn't going to get just dropped off. Knowing what I know now about myself, I would have made it.
You would have.
No ifs, ands, or but about it. I would have made it. Mm-hmm. But I didn't know that about myself back then.
Right.
So one day, after my stepfather and I got into an argument, I called myself running away from home. I got a block away from the house and realized I had nowhere to go. Okay, so I sat down on the curb thinking, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? And my little brother came running down the street.
He's looking for you.
And he put his arm around me. Then he said, brother, when I grow up, I want to be just like you.
Oh, that is such an amazing thing.
That was a turning point.
Absolutely.
That was a turning point for me because I was having thoughts of rejection, neglect, not being wanted in my own household. So the only thing that kept me from having suicidal thoughts was Marvin and Kaylin.
And Kaylin, I knew that your brother?
No, that's one of my best friends. One of my best friends from college.
Okay.
Travis is my brother.
Okay.
Now, before this, it was Kaylin and Marvin. They was the ones for me. But the day my little brother put his arms around me and told me he wanted to be just like me, that changed everything for me. I no longer wanted to be away in Virginia for college and be that far away from him. That changed our relationship. It changed how we talked, how I talked to him. He loved basketball. I didn't even like basketball. But I wouldn't play basketball in college because he wanted to see me play. I love football, hated basketball. I come from a basketball family, and I didn't want to be nothing like anyone in my family. I was good at it. I didn't like it.
Right.
Because I felt like mentally, if I played basketball, I'm being just like them.
Right.
So I didn't want to play it. But my little brother loved to watch me play. Now, if I had known I had football opportunities out of high school, I would have went and did that. But I didn't learn about that till later.
Right.
I learned later that very uncle that I have that told me I wasn't going to be anything. I wasn't going to do anything. I wasn't smart enough. That same person who told me that when I was 6 told my high school coach that I was going to play basketball in college and to throw away my football opportunities. I didn't learn that till after high school.
Oh, wow.
Which made me resent basketball even more.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but my turning point was my little brother. Once that happened, I felt like I had something to live for.
Exactly.
And I had to set an example for him. I had to protect him from things that I experienced. So I made that a mission of mine to do that, to protect him and pave a yellow brick road for him, because that road wasn't paved for me. You know what I'm saying? The road that was paved for me was a road towards destruction,
right?
Mentally,
right?
And I wanted to pave a different road for my little brother. So I learned that none of my older siblings, not siblings, but relatives, graduated from college. None of them did. And so my thought process was, how is this man going to tell me I ain't going to be shit? Excuse my French. I ain't going to be nothing. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. Man, he didn't do nothing.
Exactly.
So it was a goal of mine to be the first to graduate so I can lead an example for the younger ones in the family to follow. That was my turning point.
I want to know about Travis. How is he now?
Oh man, I'm so proud of this guy.
I know you
He
are.
is doing wonderful. I mean, he's married, got a beautiful wife, expecting his first child next month in August.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I mean, I pour so much into this guy, man. He's like me times 10 now. You know, he pours into me now. Like, G, get your head out of your butt. G, get your mind right. G, he's on me the way I was on him many years ago. So from a maturity standpoint, I mean, I always wanted him. I never wanted him to be just like me. I wanted him to be better than me, and that has been accomplished. I can honestly say that.
I have a tear because this is what happens. The experiences that we experience, we don't want other people to go through those experiences. So we become mentors, we become counselors, we become these things unknowingly. You made a decision, oh, I don't want this to happen to my brother. You made a decision to do something that you hate and make it something that he loved. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You are such an example of a cycle breaker. Oh my God. And I bet you he talks about his big brother all the time, I'm sure. I think it's an amazing thing. And so, brother, and you are a father now?
Yes, father of two beautiful children.
Wonderful. Are you um, recently married? Been married for a long time? Tell us a little bit more about your personal.
I mean, I was married. I've been divorced for about 3 years, not because of anything bad, anything like that. We just felt like that was best.
Mm-hmm.
For our relationship at the time, we get along like best friends.
Good.
People don't even know. People don't even know that we're even divorced because of how well we get along with each other, and our relationship is dynamic. I mean, our relationship is probably better than most people marriages. But
Sure.
I have two children,
Mm-hmm.
and they both in college. My daughter be a sophomore, and my son playing football.
Okay.
And my daughter was playing volleyball, but she got mentally burnt out with sports, and she decided to take a step away. And she was recognized one of the best in the country. But she decided it's not her heart. She don't want to do it. The pressure that she felt playing sports was just too much for her, and she'd rather to just be a student. So me becoming a father was another savior of mine.
Okay.
So I took everything that I gave my little brother and I multiplied that times 10 and poured it into my kids.
Mm-hmm.
Be the father that I didn't have. Build a relationship with my kids that I didn't have with my parents. Be that protector for them that I felt like I didn't have.
Right.
Guide them mentally, not just athletically, because I did that too, but not just athletically, but guide them mentally and prepare them for the world, because the world ain't gonna be kind,
Not
to these kids. They're two very, very beautiful children, and they're very smart. But I've been dealing with this world for a long time. I know that regardless of how handsome or beautiful that they are, the world ain't gonna be very kind. So I really focused on preparing them mentally,
mm-hmm.
For what they're going to experience in the world, and at the same time, Dad was the protector.
Now I have a good question because I want to say episode 5, and I'm always going to bring it up because my daughter volunteered to be a part of the podcast, and her parents are divorced. Was there an issue with your kids when you guys decided to do that? Did they seek therapy? Did you all do counseling, that type of thing?
No. I mean, because with my children at an early age, I established an open dialogue, open communication. With everything, how you felt, how we felt. We talked as a unit to come up with resolutions rather than it just being singleized.
Mm-hmm.
So everything was good.
Good.
Everything was good. My daughter, she has a separate mom than my son. You know, so when you talk about two different parents or two different mindsets, that will confuse a kid. You know, my mindset is very expanded. It's not trapped in any box or any circle or anything like that. You know, so you know, my daughter told me that there was times where you know I'm trying to teach my daughter some things, but when she go home, her mom try to unravel everything that I'm trying to teach her. You know, so we had different parenting. You know, but when she's with me, I can only control when she's with me. So I would just feed her mentally, and just hope that one day she can see it all for herself.
Right.
And that took place. That happened. You know, she got to college. She got on her own. Um, she was able to remember a lot of things that dad said. And of course, she remembered things that her mom said. But as she shared her own experiences, she heard everything that I said. I
Okay.
just say that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So role model, father. Our journeys are there's not a stop to healing. It is a process. That's what I tell everybody. It's a process. I love the testimony with brother. I love the testimony with yourself. I love the testimony with your children. Um, just the open communication with family, things of that you're coming up with key things that I have questions for that is actually going. So I'm enjoying this conversation. Do you think knowing about ACEs, because it's a recent thing, do you think knowing about it beforehand would have changed anything?
Yes. I think it would have changed a lot. It would have made me more aware of myself.
Mhm.
Okay. I mean, I was always pretty aware of myself, with some things on a deeper level I wasn't aware of. Like as I shared at the beginning of this phone call,
Mhm.
where my brother and my my children was telling me that my tone and how I talk to them sometimes, although I may mean well, but my tone came out differently, which
Mhm.
was give a different signal to them,
Mhm.
and it kind of put them in a mental state to where they was afraid to talk to dad. They was afraid to talk to big brother. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And my wife was the same way. And I didn't know I was affecting them that way.
Mhm.
If I would have known about ACEs earlier, I probably would have been able to do a little bit more soul searching within myself, and realize that I was actually hurting those very close to me.
Mhm.
My brother and I shared some things a couple of weeks ago that brought some things to light, and that was so hurtful to me, because the last thing that I ever wanted to do was to have him and my kids, my wife, everybody around me. I never wanted anyone to be hurt by me.
Right. Right.
So that was hurt. That was hurtful.
And it sounds like now that you've discovered it and you're trying to go and talk to some people and do some things and rectify some things. Um,
Yes.
Amazing. Because that's what everyone should do, especially knowing it's not too late to know about it. It is not too late to do something about it. And you're already doing something about it. You're gathering communication, you're gathering an understanding, you're educating family members, because like you said, you just talked to your brother, you're talking to your children. So kudos to you, because you're taking immediate action on something that you just found out about. So congratulations to you.
Thank you.
What else do you want to do about ACEs?
Not only continue to work on myself, but I also would love to be in a position to where I can help other people. Because I also feel that would be a form of healing for me. Knowing if I can just save one,
Mm.
I feel like I won the battle. So if I could be in a position to get more involved with ACEs, continue to share my story, because there was things on the story that we didn't share. I mean, we've been on the same for almost an hour.
I know.
There are some things that we didn't share. But being able to continue to share my story with people, it would be very gratifying for me, knowing it's a step in the right direction for healing, and this is also a step in the right direction to save someone else.
Absolutely. This is the reason why I do it. And I would love for you to join us on this wonderful journey, because again, it's it's the self fulfillment for me. It's the gratification for me. It's the meeting Greg for me. It's the story for me that gives me the reality of saying, Tori, you're doing a great job and you got to continue doing this because there are people out there that want to share their story. And you're one of
Yes.
them. So, Greg, sorry you're stuck with us. It is what it is.
Hey,
I would love
sounds good.
you. Yeah.
You know,
I think
I
we
mean,
should pair up on some mentorship. I think that would actually be very positive because I can only do so much for my male mentors and I have a lot of them. So shout out to my boys in Chicago. I love them to death. I think the thing for them is there was someone there that was there to save their life. And so every
yeah,
now and again, I get that call, are you alive? And it's like, yes, because I need to know that what you see in Chicago is what it is. So,
yeah,
listen,
yeah,
believe me, I don't like getting the calls when it's one of my sons that passed away. So let's be clear. I think, of course, that joint venture would be great. But again, I appreciate you telling your story. You're amazing. And I thank you for being here. I thank you for sharing your story. I thank you for this time because we really could have went on a little bit more. And I know that there's a lot of things that we still need to do. So I really look forward to collaboration. Where can we find you on?
well, thank you for having me on. It was definitely a blast, and it was definitely healing. You know, my heart feels good. I'm no longer shaking anymore, so that feels great. You can find me on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. Miller the Realtor, G Miller or Gmail
You
777.
as a realtor. You're a realtor.
Yeah, yes, I am a realtor. Been a realtor. I'm in my 5th year. Some people say that I'm successful, but I think success is only defined by the eyes of the beholder. So I'm nowhere near my potential. I'm just now scratching the surface. So not only am I a realtor, I'm an author as well. I authored a book called Reflection to Perfection.
Okay.
You can find it on Amazon.com. It's all about interpersonal development, transitioning to professionalism, transition to leadership. So once again, you can find me on Facebook at Miller the Realtor, Instagram, Gmail 777. This should be the same thing with Twitter. Um, I'm on all social media platforms, so I hope to hear from you.
Of course, you'll hear from me. And I thank you guys for tuning in and listening. This one was a great one. Of course, I think everyone that comes on the podcast was great, but I think this situation needed to happen because it was so real. It impacted us all, I'm sure. I'm looking forward to the feedback from that. Don't forget to follow Dr. Victorious, though. I'm everywhere too. I'm just not a realtor. But guess what? You can find me on social media as Dr. Victorious or find me in Be Victorious with Dr. Tori Williams. It's a pleasure, you guys. Tune in next time.